amazing opportunity for people, both in the diaspora and in Israel, to rally around the best of modern Israel and a part of the country that was ancient Israel, was part of modern day Israel, and is absolutely key to the future.
Through strategic investment in education, research, and community initiatives, Americans for Ben-Gurion University are laying the groundwork for a thriving future. They're ensuring the Negev is not just a region, but the cornerstone of Israel's success.
Way forward for us was a double entendre. The idea that this was a campaign we were organizing to advance the university and to help the Negev. That's what it was on October 6th. But on the other side of October 7th, it's really a triple entendre. The way forward for the university, the Negev, and in so doing through the recovery and rebuilding the state of Israel and its place in the world. So we're very proud to be playing the role to try to raise the majority of the resources for this audacious $1 billion effort. Historically, the United States has provided about 60% of the philanthropy to the university. And so our goal is 600 million of the billion. About $500 million, as you mentioned, has been raised to date. This campaign will go through September 30th of 2030. So we have a lot of time, and we're just trying to get in front of supporters to make sure that they understand what the university does and its importance to the future of Israel.
Americans for Ben-Gurion University are doing more than supporting a campaign. They're ensuring that trauma is met with resilience, that challenges turn into opportunities, and that hope for the future becomes a reality. Join the movement, support the Way Forward campaign, and help secure Israel's future. Scan the QR code to learn more and make a difference today.
And again, for our viewers, you can scan the QR code to learn more and support this important initiative, the Way Forward campaign. A shocking new low for Hamas as the terror group continues to use children as pawns in its war against Israel. Just yesterday, IDF soldiers stationed along the Gaza border encountered a 4-year-old boy alone and vulnerable approaching a military post. He told the troops that Hamas had sent him. This isn't just reckless, of course, it's a calculated act of cruelty. Hamas, a terror organization whose charter calls for Israel's destruction, has once again proven its utter disregard for human life, especially the lives of innocent children. The IDF, demonstrating its unwavering commitment to humanitarian principles, safely returned the child to Gaza, working with COGAT and other international partners. But let's be clear, this is not a story of compassion, but a story of Hamas's depravity. They exploit the most vulnerable, sending children into harm's way to achieve their twisted goals. The IDF spokesperson released a scathing condemnation highlighting Hamas's cynical exploitation of children for terrorist objectives. This incident serves as a stark reminder of the true face of Hamas, a terror organization that hides behind civilians, uses schools and hospitals as launch pads, and now callously uses children as human shields, in addition to recruiting them to the ranks of Hamas. The world must condemn this blatant abuse of children and hold Hamas accountable for these war crimes. And now let's take a look at Welcome back to ILTV News. This morning, the IDF carried out strikes on Islamic Jihad targets in Damascus as regional tensions and instability in Syria threatened to spill over into Israel. Israeli officials confirmed the strikes destroyed sites where attacks against Israel were being plotted. Meanwhile, in Doha, Israel's hostage negotiation team stayed in Qatar for another night, as officials say talks have made some progress as they work to extend the ceasefire with a new proposal. ILTV's Shosh Bedrosian has the details.
Officials are expressing cautious optimism with slight progress made in the negotiating talks in Doha. The Israeli delegation extended their stay as U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff joined conversations this week. Now, although there was no agreement on the U.S. proposal to secure all the hostages in 2 phases, mediators are suggesting compromises to create momentum for future negotiations if a deal is secured. Witkoff said he will be demanding deadlines from Hamas, and officials say an extended ceasefire without hostages being released was unsustainable. Israeli officials have so far denied the proposal for the release of 10 hostages in several stages, saying it was not an option being negotiated. Officials said their American counterparts remain deeply disturbed by the reports of torture and abuse of those who are being held hostage by Hamas. The U.S. government is working to get the only American believed to be alive at this point out of captivity. Idan Alexander was kidnapped on October 7th. and is one of the 24 hostages Israel believes still could be alive. The bodies of 4 other American citizens are still being held captive by Hamas. Supporters and families of the hostages reject the possibility of a return to fighting, as they say it could put the hostages in more jeopardy. But officials are expressing a strong preference to avoid a return to full-scale fighting. Now, a total of 59 hostages are still being held by Hamas terrorists, with 24 of them believed to be alive, which includes 22 Israelis, 1 Thai national, and 1 national from Nepal. The level of torture and humiliation are heard throughout the stories of released hostages about the hellish conditions they were held in. Recently released hostage Omer Wenkert, who lost a significant amount of weight in captivity, said in a recent interview his captors took their frustration out on him when there were failed negotiation talks or if a senior commander was killed. He said he was beaten with an iron rod on his birthday, explaining it was the lowest point of his life in that moment. Wenkert says he left behind other hostages he was held in captivity with.
ILTV's Shosh Bedrosian now joins us with more details on the hostage situation. Shosh, there's been a recent sign of life of one of the hostages in captivity. What can you tell us about this?
Well, Emily, according to Israeli media reports, a recently released hostage said they saw 32-year-old Avi Natan Or while in captivity. It marks the first public sign of life, although his family says they have received multiple signs of life from before the spring of 2024. Avi Natan Or was kidnapped and abducted with his girlfriend Noah Argamani from the Nova Music Festival. Although they were separated during their abduction, their entire abduction was actually caught on camera. Noah Argamani was seen being taken away into Gaza on a motorcycle, screaming for her life. Meanwhile, Avi Natan was taken walking by Hamas terrorists with his hands behind his back. Israeli officials believe Avi Natan is one of the 24 Israeli hostages still believed to be alive at this point. We know there is a total of 59 hostages, including bodies, still in Gaza. Now, Noah Argamani, his girlfriend, was rescued by Israeli special forces back in June of 2024 in a very secret covert operation. She's been sharing her story, Avi Natan's story, across the world, and she also says that her heart is still in Gaza until Avi Natan comes home.
All right, thank you, Shosh, for that report. Now, President Donald Trump clarified this week he does not support expelling Palestinians from Gaza, only voluntary transfer. Let's take a look at what happened.
President Trump's proposal to relocate Palestinians from Gaza has prompted strong reactions, but now Trump is clarifying. Trump's comments come after pushback to his proposal and run contrary to accusations that he backed so-called, quote, ethnic cleansing from the enclave. Since his bombshell announcement, there is speculation that Trump may have allowed that idea to circulate to pressure Arab states to step up, especially Egypt, which has so far rejected taking in Gazans, even as the war drags on. Egypt, backed quietly by Qatar, has proposed a Gaza plan of its own, calling for a ceasefire, release of Israeli hostages, and creation of a technocratic Palestinian government. But critics, including Israel and U.S. officials, say it falls short because it doesn't address the core issue: what happens to Hamas? Egypt's plan leaves room for Hamas to continue armed and in control of Gaza, something neither Israel nor Washington is willing to accept. Trump has made clear he wants peace in the region and is committed to advancing the historic Abraham Accords, but he's also shown commitment to letting Israel, quote, finish what they started against Hamas. While all parties pursue a solution, U.S. Envoy Steve Witkoff praised the Arab Proposal Initiative and is actively working to find a deal that reflects the interests of all parties, the people of Gaza, Israel, and the U.S.
As Israel and the U.S. push hard for a hostage deal, many questions remain about what will become of Hamas and Gaza. Joining us now to discuss all the options on the table is Kobi Michael of the INSS and the Misgav Institute. Kobi, thank you so much for joining us today. Just to start, what do you expect to see from the current hostage negotiations, and what are the major stumbling blocks?
It looks that everybody, mainly the Americans, is trying to extend the first phase of the agreement in order to facilitate maybe better conditions for the continuation of the agreement. But I'm really skeptic in this regard, and even if at the end of the day the phase one will be extended, I don't think that we will be able to reach to phase two, because the gaps between both sides, Hamas and Israel, are unbridgeable. And at the end of the day, I think that Israel will find itself in the second round against Hamas, and I hope that this time it will be much more shorter and effective.
Now, in recent days, Israel has expressed some frustration over the U.S. directly negotiating with Hamas. How is Israel handling this, and are there fundamental differences in terms of the goals of the United States versus the goals of Israel on this issue?
I think that it was a very severe problem. The idea that the American administration splits its channels of negotiation with Hamas, where one of the channels is even a direct channel, the channel of Adam Boehler, I think that this was a huge mistake, because first of all, it legitimizes Hamas. Secondly, it enables Hamas to manipulate everybody and to maneuver between the negotiators and between the moderators, and to earn more time. And time is the most crucial asset that or resource that Hamas needs today in order to establish its control over the territory and the population in Gaza. And I hope that the level of the coordination, the cooperation between the American administration and Israel is in a manner that will enable Israel to accomplish its strategic objectives at the end of the day.
Now, we are running out of time, so I'll have to keep it brief, but I got to ask you, the Arab world has stepped up in response to Trump's proposal to remove Palestinians from Gaza, with an option that essentially leaves the door open to Hamas being in some kind of power. Obviously, the U.S. and Israel both oppose this. Is there any scenario in which Israel could compromise on this? And can you explain a little bit to our viewers about why that wouldn't be a safe option for Israel?
I think that this is not an option at all. I think that Israel should say, and I'm talking about the Arab League summit, that was held in Cairo last week. I think that Israel should say the following: we are ready to accept any plan with regard to the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip only in the day after Hamas is not there anymore. Until then, don't talk to us, because there is no any program or any idea that will succeed or can be realized in the Gaza Strip as long as Hamas remains there as the sovereign power. And I think that when we are reading carefully the statement of the Arab League summit from last week, I think that this is a sort of empty words, because Hamas is not mentioned there even once. Israel is condemned in a very severe manner, and they are talking about the Egyptian plan with regard to the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip without mentioning what is going to be there with Hamas. And in addition to that, they provide platforms that will enable Hamas to be part of the day after in the Gaza Strip and part of the entire Palestinian system by calling for reforms of the PLO and the Palestinian Authority that will include all the Palestinian factions. What is the meaning of all the Palestinian factions? It includes Hamas as well.
Of course, of course. Well, unfortunately, we are out of time. Don't want to cut you off there, but we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining us, Kobi Michael from the INSS and the Misgav Institute. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Well, the Islamic Republic of Iran has rejected a letter from former President Donald Trump delivered through the United Arab Emirates, offering to open direct nuclear talks. According to reports, the letter proposed negotiations over the Islamic Republic of Iran's illicit nuclear program and escalating tensions in the region. But the regime's supreme leader, Khamenei, rejected the offer outright, refusing to respond and shutting down any possibility of dialogue. The move comes after the regime has spent a week denying they received the letter at all, and is seen by many as part of a pattern where the Islamic Republic of Iran has consistently refused negotiations while continuously expanding its nuclear proliferation, also while supporting terror proxies across the Middle East. President Trump had previously withdrawn from the 2015 nuclear deal and has now imposed heavy new sanctions on the Islamic regime. But his letter reportedly gave the regime a choice: negotiate or face potential military consequences. Instead of playing ball, however, the Ayatollah has spent weeks condemning Trump, calling him a bully. With this latest rejection, it's becoming increasingly clear that there is no diplomatic path forward as long as the Ayatollahs maintain control of Iran. The U.S. has sanctioned the Foxtrot Network, a Swedish crime syndicate, and its leader, the Kurdish Fox, for alleged Islamic regime-directed attacks on Israeli and Jewish targets in Europe, including a foiled Israeli embassy bombing. Here's Ariel Elachiani with more.
The United States has imposed sanctions on the Foxtrot Network, a powerful transnational criminal organization based in Sweden, and its leader, Rawa Majid, known as the Kurdish Fox. This crime network, involved in drug trafficking and arms smuggling, has been linked to attacks on Israeli and Jewish targets across Europe, allegedly orchestrated by the Iranian regime. The most alarming incident occurred on January 31, 2024, when Swedish authorities thwarted an attempted attack on the Israeli embassy in Stockholm. A live grenade was found outside the embassy and safely detonated by the National Bomb Squad. Israeli intelligence agency Mossad and the Swedish security service confirmed that the Foxtrot network carried out the attack under Iranian directives. But the violence didn't stop there. 4 months later, shots were fired near the Israeli embassy in Stockholm, and airsoft grenades were thrown into the Israeli embassy yard in Belgium. According to the US government, Iran's use of criminal organizations like Foxtrot demonstrates its willingness to pursue its goals by any means. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio emphasized the administration's commitment to exposing and punishing those working with Tehran's destabilizing agenda. Meanwhile, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent highlighted Iran's willingness to exploit international crime organizations to achieve its objectives, regardless of the consequences for European communities. Rawa Majid, who fled to Iran in September 2023, remains wanted in Sweden for drug and weapons trafficking. Reports reveal he was recruited by Iranian intelligence to carry out attacks on Israeli and Jewish targets. His network's violent feud with a splinter group led by former ally Ismail Abdo has turned Sweden's streets into battlegrounds. As the United States ramps up its maximum pressure campaign against Iran, all property and interests belonging to Majid and the Foxtrot network in the US have been blocked. The Foxtrot network's violent operations remain a serious threat to communities across Europe.
Well, Americans on the left and right are being divided over the controversial detainment of pro-Hamas activist and Columbia grad student Mahmoud Khalil. While some argue this is a necessary step to enforce the law and stop terror support on American campuses, others are asking questions about the limits of free expression, a constitutionally protected right. While asking questions is valid, those who defend this man as some kind of martyr are entirely missing the point. First, Khalil isn't being detained because of anything he said. He's been detained because he violated the terms of his green card. When you accept a green card, you pledge not to support U.S. designated terrorist organizations, of which Hamas and Hezbollah explicitly are. The United States is not under any obligation to provide non-citizens with visas or green cards and is well within their sovereignty to cancel anything that's already been issued. It's not new, it's not racist, and it's not unique to the United States. Second, beyond deportation, Khalil's alleged behavior is also of criminal concern. He's been accused of leading the Columbia University protests in which Jewish students were violently assaulted, in which Columbia staff were held hostage in a building illegally taken over by Hamas-supporting mobs, and during which students chanted blatantly in favor of U.S. designated terror groups Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. All this while U.S. citizens are still being held hostage in Gaza. Khalil reportedly also passed out flyers from the Hamas media office. And let's not forget, Hamas actually praised the student protests, stating that it worked in their favor in hostage negotiations. But let's talk legal. Under the U.S. Immigration and Nationality Act, any non-citizen who endorses or espouses terrorist activity or persuades others to endorse or espouse terrorist activity or supports a terrorist organization is inadmissible to the United States. Legal precedent also shows that even under a free speech analysis, which requires a test of strict scrutiny in American courts, the United States is well within their right to act accordingly against Khalil because there is a compelling national interest, a precedent which can be found in Morse v. Frederick or Turner v. Williams. Finally, the glorification of terror supporters even by elected officials, makes a mockery of the legal system and the U.S. Congress. No one on the left or the right should be doing this. These laws are in place to protect all American citizens. Khalil came to the country seeking citizenship and used the opportunity to foment hatred against America. He's not a victim, and his rights are not being violated. He was the leader of a movement that has, according to U.S. intelligence, been at least partially funded by the Islamic Republic of Iran and has promoted multiple U.S.-designated terrorist organizations. The United States is under no legal obligation to permit him to stay in the country. In the wake of October 7th, Israel faces unprecedented challenges directly impacting many students. Americans for Ben-Gurion University and the Way Forward Project aim to address these challenges through a $1 billion campaign. The initiative supports university construction, student aid, and research excellence, driving innovation in the Negev and beyond, while fostering resilience against trauma. The goal is to ensure students can resume their studies without academic or financial burdens. Let's take a look.
Since October 7, 2023, Israel has faced unprecedented challenges. At Ben-Gurion University, the impact is deeply felt. Many students have been called to serve in reserve duty for extended periods, putting their education and their lives on hold. Ben-Gurion University is now stepping up for students who served over 250 days in reserve duty. BGU's support includes 2 tuition-free semesters to ease their return to studies, up to 5 free courses to bridge academic gaps, great flexibility for 2024 exams, keeping the higher score on a second attempt, a dedicated reserve duty officer for personal, financial, and academic support, and pre-semester prep weeks with refresher courses, skill workshops, and emotional support. This is more than academics. It's about rebuilding lives. Together with Americans for Ben-Gurion University, BGU is empowering the next generation to overcome adversity and lead with courage.
We're about education and research, advancing the Negev as the anchor institution and catalyst for growth of the region. We're the largest employer, the source of innovation and growth, at the center of the Innovation District project for all of Israel. And we also have a service component to what we do. We're not an ivory tower institution that's just about education and research. We do that exceptionally well. But we're also about service and uplifting the community around us.
The future of Israel depends on resilience and unity, and Americans for Ben-Gurion University is spearheading the Way Forward campaign, a movement that is doing more than just raising funds. They are building futures, fostering innovation, and strengthening the Negev.
At the end of the day, I think something that's really important to think about is that the future of Israel isn't going to come from people arguing about what's wrong. It needs to come from a rallying around what's right. We call that 21st century Zionism. And in many ways, that's what the university represents. And here at Americans for Ben-Gurion University, we're the university's ambassadors in the United States, trying to get the word out, build awareness for all the great things happening in Israel, and in particular in a university setting, and even more particular at Ben-Gurion University of the Negev, which has 3 amazing campuses in Beersheba, Sde Boker, and Eilat. They each do incredible things.
The Negev is central to this vision. As 60% of Israel's land, uncontested and full of potential, it holds the key to the nation's future.
The Negev represents this amazing opportunity for people, both in the diaspora and in Israel, to rally around the best of modern Israel and a part of the country that was ancient Israel, was part of modern day Israel, and is absolutely key to the future.
Through strategic investment in education, research, and community initiatives, Americans for Ben-Gurion University are laying the groundwork for a thriving future. They're ensuring the Negev is not just a region, but the cornerstone of Israel's success.
Way Forward for us was a double entendre. The idea that this was a campaign we were organizing to advance the university and to help the Negev. That's what it was on October 6th. But on the other side of October 7th, it's really a triple entendre. The way forward for the university, the Negev, and in so doing through the recovery and rebuilding the state of Israel and its place in the world. So we're very proud to be playing the role to try to raise the majority of the resources for this audacious $1 billion effort. Historically, the United States has provided about 60% of the philanthropy to the university. And so our goal is 600 million of the billion. About $500 million, as you mentioned, has been raised to date. This campaign will go through September 30th of 2030. So we have a lot of time, and we're just trying to get in front of supporters to make sure that they understand what the university does and its importance to the future of Israel.
Americans for Ben-Gurion University are doing more than supporting a campaign. They're ensuring that trauma is met with resilience, that challenges turn into opportunities, and that hope for the future becomes a reality. Join the movement, support the Way Forward campaign, and help secure Israel's future. Scan the QR code to learn more and make a difference today.
And again, for our viewers, you can scan the QR code to learn more and support this important initiative, the Way Forward campaign. A shocking new low for Hamas as the terror group continues to use children as pawns in its war against Israel. Just yesterday, IDF soldiers stationed along the Gaza border encountered a 4-year-old boy alone and vulnerable approaching a military post. He told the troops that Hamas had sent him. This isn't just reckless, of course, it's a calculated act of cruelty. Hamas, a terror organization whose charter calls for Israel's destruction, has once again proven its utter disregard for human life, especially the lives of innocent children. The IDF, demonstrating its unwavering commitment to humanitarian principles, safely returned the child to Gaza, working with COGAT and other international partners. But let's be clear, this is not a story of compassion, but a story of Hamas's depravity. They exploit the most vulnerable, sending children into harm's way to achieve their twisted goals. The IDF spokesperson released a scathing condemnation highlighting Hamas's cynical exploitation of children for terrorist objectives. This incident serves as a stark reminder of the true face of Hamas, a terror organization that hides behind civilians, uses schools and hospitals as launch pads, and now callously uses children as human shields, in addition to recruiting them to the ranks of Hamas. The world must condemn this blatant abuse of children and hold Hamas accountable